Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into Ezekiel chapter 37. It's just packed with these incredibly powerful images.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those passages that just grabs you right from the start. You read the first few lines and you're immediately somewhere else entirely.
You really are. And our mission today, sort of, is to unpack two key things from this chapter, this striking vision and then a symbolic act to see what they tell us about restoration, hope, and, well, identity.
Yeah, both for, the original audience and maybe how it resonates still.
Exactly. So let's kick things off with that first scene. The text says the prophet Ezekiel feels the hand of the Lord on him.
Right, and he's brought out by the Spirit and set down in this valley, and it's just full of bones.
Not just a few bones either. It says a great many bones scattered all over the valley floor. The scale itself is overwhelming.
And the condition is crucial.
Wow.
They are very dry.
Very dry. What does that specific detail suggest to you?
Well, it's more than just dead, isn't it? Very dry implies a long time dead, hopelessly dead. No moisture, no life, no possibility left, it seems. It's utter desolation.
The complete opposite of life, just settled death.
Precisely. And right there, in the middle of all this, God asks Ezekiel this question that feels almost rhetorical, or maybe impossible. Son of man, can these bones live?
Yeah, how do you even answer that? It forces him to confront the sheer impossibility from a human view.
And his answer is perfect, really. O sovereign Lord, you alone know. He basically says, look, this is way beyond me. If it's possible, only you know how.
It acknowledges God's power without pretending to understand it.
Exactly. And then instead of just, waving a hand, God tells Ezekiel to speak to the bones.
Right. Prophesy to these bones. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
Which immediately highlights the power of the spoken word, the divine command, in this whole process.
The transformation starts with hearing the word, and that first prophecy details a kind of physical rebuilding.
Yes, it says, I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. It's about reconstruction.
So Ezekiel obeys, he speaks, and then you get this amazing soundscape. A noise, a rattling sound.
You can almost hear it. That clatter as the bones find each other, bone to bone.
It's incredibly vivid, and then, just as prophesied, the bodies reform. Tendons, flesh, skin, they look like people again.
They have the form, the structure, everything seems complete.
But and this is such a critical detail. There was no breath in them.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? It shows that just having the right shape, the outward appearance, that's not life. Something essential is missing.
They're like perfectly formed statues or mannequins, lifeless.
Which sets up the need for a second command, a second prophecy.
And this time he's told to prophesy specifically to the breath, or the wind, or spirit. The word ruach has that range.
Exactly. Prophesy and say, come, breath from the four winds, and breathe into these slains that they may live.
Summoning life from outside, from everywhere, symbolized by the four winds.
It's not generated from within the bodies. It's an external gift, an infusion of divine animating power.
And when that happens, when the breath enters them.
They came to life and stood up on their feet. A vast army.
Wow! From scattered, dry bones to a huge, living army. That's some transformation.
It's the ultimate picture of resurrection and mobilization, isn't it?
Yeah.
From total death and disarray to life and unity and strength.
Okay, so the vision is incredibly dramatic. But what's the point? What does it all mean? Thankfully, the text tells us.
Yeah, God explains it directly. Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel.
The whole house. So this valley isn't literal geography. It's a metaphor for their condition.
Right. And it even gives us their words to show why they feel like dry bones. They're quoted as saying, our bones are dried up and our hope is gone. We are cut off.
That's how they felt in exile. Utterly helpless, disconnected, finished, like dried up bones. They felt dead and buried.
It's a devastating self-assessment. And the vision speaks directly to that feeling. God promises to open your graves and bring you up from them.
He uses their own metaphor of death and burial to promise the opposite resurrection and return.
A return back to the land of Israel. It's not just about coming back to life, but coming back home.
And there's a purpose stated for this miracle. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord when I open your graves.
Their restoration becomes the proof of God's identity and power. It's knowledge born from experience.
And it includes that crucial element from the vision, the breath, the spirit. I will put my spirit in you and you will live.
So life comes from God's spirit, and then settling them in your own land. It's a complete package. Spiritual life, physical place, renewed relationship.
And God seals it with this powerful confirmation. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done it, declares the Lord.
It's a guarantee. No ifs, ands, or buts. Given how low they felt our hope is gone, this promise is just immense.
It really reframes despair, doesn't it? It suggests that even a state of being very dry, completely hopeless, isn't the end of the story when divine power is involved.
Absolutely. It shifts your focus from the depth of the problem to the sheer scale of God's restorative power.
Okay, so that's the vision of the bones. But chapter 37 isn't done. It moves right into a second symbolic act, this time with sticks.
That's right. Another instruction for Ezekiel to perform a kind of a visual prophecy. He's told to take one stick.
And right on it basically for Judah, representing southern kingdom.
Yep. Judah and its associates. Then take a second stick.
And right on that one for Joseph, or Ephraim, representing the northern kingdom, Israel.
The kingdom that split off centuries before and was largely destroyed and scattered by the Assyrians. These two, Judah and Israel, had been divided for, over 300 years?
A long, long time, full of rivalry, separation, sometimes war, a really deep, painful division.
Foundational to their recent history, really. Two separate nations.
And God tells Ezekiel, take these two separate sticks. And what?
Join them together into one stick so that they will become one in your hand. Physically make them appear as a single unit.
Wow, imagine the people watching him do this. It must have looked bizarre.
Exactly. And the text anticipates their question. Won't you tell us what you mean by this?
And the explanation directly mirrors the action. God says, basically, I'm going to do what Ezekiel is showing you.
I am going to take the stick of Joseph and join it to Judah's stick. They will become one in my hand. God himself is the one joining them.
It's a divine act of reunification, reversing centuries of history.
And it's tied, again, to the return from exile. He says he'll gather them from the nations and bring them back into their own land.
So coming home also means coming together, healing the division.
And the result. I will make them one nation in the land, no longer two.
One nation. And the emphasis is really strong. There will be one king over all of them, and they will never again be two nations or be divided.
Never again. That's a huge promise, given their past. Permanent unity under one leader.
And it's not just political unity, is it? There's a moral and spiritual dimension, too.
Definitely. It says they'll no longer defile themselves with idols or sins. God will cleanse them.
Leading to that core relationship. They will be my people, and I will be their God. A restored covenant relationship.
And this unified, cleansed people will have a specific kind of king.
Right. My servant David will be king over them. They will all have one shepherd.
This points towards an ideal ruler in the line of David, embodying justice and care, like a shepherd for his flock, leading them in God's ways.
And just like the vision of the bones, the permanence here is stressed over and over. They'll live in the land forever. David will be their prince forever.
Forever. It's that language of absolute permanence again, secured by an everlasting covenant of peace.
A covenant guaranteed by God that won't be broken. And perhaps the climax of it all is God's own presence.
Yes, I will put my sanctuary among them forever. My dwelling place will be with them, God living with them in their midst.
That's the ultimate sign of restoration, isn't it? God's presence secured among his unified living people.
I will be their God, and they will be my people. That relationship is sealed by his presence.
And the very last verse gives the sort of global purpose for all this internal restoration.
Right. Then the nations will know that I, the Lord, make Israel holy when my sanctuary is among them forever. Their restoration is a testimony to the world about God's sanctifying power and presence.
Okay, so let's try and tie these two parts together now, the dry bones and the two sticks. They follow one right after the other.
And they really complement each other, don't they? One addresses total lifelessness and despair.
And the other addresses deep-seated division and historical separation. Both are pictures of profound brokenness.
Utter brokenness. And in both cases, the answer is this radical, complete transformation that comes directly from God's power.
From death to life, a vast army infused with the Spirit. From divided fragments to one unified nation under one king, with God dwelling right there.
The big themes are clearly hope, restoration, but also, I think, completeness, unity, permanence, a secure, everlasting relationship with God at the center.
It's about overcoming the absolute fundamentals of what can go wrong. Death, division, loss of identity, hopelessness.
And the solution involves God's Spirit, God's chosen leadership, God's unifying action, and God's own presence.
All those repeated words, forever, everlasting, one nation, one shepherd, they really hammer home that this isn't just patching things up. It's a final, complete recreation.
It paints a picture of ultimate wholeness, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Alive, together, clean, led rightly, and with God living among them.
So when you put those two together, the response to utter death and the response to seemingly permanent division, what does that suggest when you think about situations that feel completely hopeless or irreconcilably divided?
Well, it suggests that maybe our assessment of impossible isn't the final word. It points to a power capable of resurrecting hope from ashes and forging unity out of deep hostility. A power beyond the purely human.
Yeah, it certainly challenges the limits of what we think is possible.
It forces you to consider a different source for transformation.
And that really brings us to the end of our deep dive into Ezekiel 37. We started in that bleak valley of bones,
Saw them come alive,
then watched those two divided sticks become one.
ending with this vision of a fully restored, unified people, alive with God's Spirit in His presence right there with them.
The core message seems undeniable. Hope and restoration are profoundly possible even from the depths of despair or the chaos of division through God's power and His commitment.
It's a powerful counter-narrative to hopelessness and fragmentation.
Exactly. So maybe here's a thought to leave you with. When you look at things in your own life or maybe in the wider world that feel very dry, total devoid of life or hope, or things that feel deeply, perhaps permanently divided, what does it mean to consider the kind of power we see described here? The power that breathes life into bones and makes two into one, not just by human effort, but through divine action and presence.
That's definitely something to reflect on, a different way to view those impossible situations.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We hope exploring Ezekiel 37 has given you some fresh insights into hope, unity, and transformation.